The secret skill of most people who land in the C-suite is that they're really good at getting along with others. They're good at getting people on their side. They're salespeople, they're relationship managers, trust builders. They are not product people, they're not process experts, and they're certainly not technologists. Trust them when they inevitably say, I know just enough to be dangerous. Now, if you were to lock up a bunch of them in a conference room that they didn't willingly lock themselves up in because they do that stuff for fun, and you tell them that they're locked in and can't go golfing until they, as a group, come up with a proposal that will scale their business, there's a 100% chance that their collective answer will be a fast and furious combination of 4 words: new tech platform automation. Any combo, right? And those leaders, as much as we all love them, will all be violently wrong again. Welcome to week 4, day 24 of Starting Your Side Hustle. We're taking 28 days, 28 small steps to build a business that's meaningful, impactful, profitable. This week's goal is scalability. So today we're going to talk about those 4 words loved by all CXOs: new tech platform automation. And we're going to do it a little differently by talking about everything that needs to come before those 4 words. All the seemingly intuitive garbage you hear from the masters of scale, all the companies pitching automation, about how to build anti-fragile workflows and improve under pressure. That marketing intentionally hides a very simple truth. Automation as a path to scale needs to be built on scalable processes, which themselves need to be built on scalable products. And because corporate leaders are mostly salespeople, relationship managers, trust builders, 99% of companies don't have scalable products or scalable processes. And for that same reason, that same 99% spend a ton on tech to scale what isn't ready to scale. They expect tech investment to compensate for the lack of business and ops investment. They expect tech leaders to compensate for the absence of business and ops expertise. And to be fair, usually it's because the business and ops folks are heads down selling and delivering unscalable products. That's another reason you should take on your competition. Their internal expertise is locked into all the bad decisions their founders made, all the gut-driven tech will save us BS that their C-suites believe. They're all locked in to a losing proposition. Today, we're going to talk about how to design your hustle from the get-go to first think product, then process, and then tech. That's the right order for the scalability to take shape. If you're just starting your hustle, if you're on day 24, less than a month in, now is the best time ever to commit from the ground up to a business and culture that understands the sequence of investments that lead to scalability, that lead to hockey stick output. Your question for today. 1, when you look at the most repetitive parts of your hustle, the one you're dying to automate, what would happen if you asked yourself every week going forward whether this step or this automation still makes sense for your business, if the goal is not to grow, but to scale? And question number 2, if you could only automate one thing in your hustle this month, which task would let you see the most immediate impact on your time or on your customer's experience? And how would you know if it's working? Question number 1 matters because most workflows drift into irrelevance because no one checks if they still fit the current business or if they're designed to scale. Super important. Asking yourself this question every week creates the habit of continuous improvement. It makes sure your processes stay aligned with your evolving product, which in turn need to align and stay aligned with your customer needs. This is how you avoid one of the biggest traps of the 99% of tech investment, building once and forgetting, which fails to understand that your customers, products, processes are constantly evolving. Let me take 1 sec to explain my thinking on these questions. Both of them train you to focus on product and process before jumping into tech. They ask you as a founder to identify something that, if you invest time and money into, would have an outsized impact for your hustle, on your customer experience. It's super skill 1 and 2, focus and prioritization. That's all it is. You're focusing your brain to make sure that your product is simple and the process on top of it is stable enough, optimized enough to benefit from tech, automation. It's all meant to train your brain to keep driving home the point that automation is built on scalable processes, which are themselves built on scalable products. Worth repeating a billion times. Product first, process next, and last, automation. This is a competitive advantage. You're going to follow the sequence your competitors were too busy to follow. Product to process to automation. The exact sequence for scalable, sustainable growth. For that hockey stick. Okay, take a moment and try to answer the day 24 questions for your hustle without AI before you listen to the next section, the 28-day Ivy League MBA. I personally think it's useful to try to answer questions without AI first, but if you'd rather do that, the AI teaching assistant will drop with today's case study in a couple hours. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out Lunch Break Billionaire Day 0, or go over to superserious.com where I'm posting daily transcripts. The AI prompts are there too. That's it. Hustle smarter. Most of the times when tech fails to scale a business, and tech fails a lot, it's not because we didn't throw enough tech people at it, or we didn't use the right tech process or the right tech tools. It's because the solution, the investment, should have started as a product exercise in the business proper, and then should have been followed by an investment in process optimization and ops. And what makes that approach even harder is that if you ask the experts in the business or the experts in ops, who are already heads down just doing their jobs, they'll say they only need one thing to change their operating model: tech. Those experts, like their well-meaning C-suites, are violently wrong. Day 23, part 2 of Lunch Break Millionaire, where we turn whatever you're eating for lunch into an Ivy League MBA degree. For today's lunch, we're going to say goodbye to tacos once and for all, the kind that someone else makes for you. And today, we're going to go with a build-your-own taco bar. Woo! Here's the metaphor I'm going to use to rationalize the taco today. Every taco starts with a simple, solid base, the tortilla, your product. Then you layer in the proteins, the veggies, the toppings, your processes. Only after you've got those right do you reach for the hot sauce, the lime, the salsa, your tech and automation. What most companies have before the tech isn't a taco. It's a mess. And throwing hot sauce on it just makes you have a spicy mess. The other taco analogy that's worth sharing, because I'm filled with them, pun intended. If you overload a taco, any taco, with too many toppings, it falls apart. So you have to keep it simple. Build it in the right order, base, fillings, flavor, and you get a scalable, delicious treat, which leads us to today's Ivy League skill, operating model design, with the aid of a product, process, tech pyramid. I'll hopefully put up a picture, but the message around it is simple. Every time you skip a layer in this pyramid, you create complexity that slows down your business, which means you should be constantly asking yourself, am I building my hustle in the right order? Am I starting with a solid product, then layering in processes, and only then reaching for the spicy tech? If you are, you're on the way to a scalable, satisfying business and a damn good lunch. Okay, let's jump back to the conference room full of pro golfers, professional C-suite people, and explore why they're wrong about tech as their first best investment for scalability. The answer should be simple now. Technology is only as good as the processes it supports, and those processes are only as good as the simplicity and uniformity of the products that they support. Why should you care about any of this while your hustle is still just you flying solo? Because during the early days, you have the chance to shape your products and processes in a way that clears the path for tech to scale your hustle eventually. It's also good to think about the product, process, tech pyramid before you make your first hire, because most of the people you hire will come from companies that by default buy into the BS mindset of that poor CEO who is locked in the conference room. Your employees, whether they're your business people, your ops people, or your tech people, will necessarily think tech is the answer, unless you create a thoughtful, deliberate culture from day one that values a sequence of product first, then process, then tech. Train your brain to sequence your investments in product, process, and technology in that exact order. This is the essence of what top MBAs call operating model design. And don't worry, I'm going to tell you how it works. Start by making a product or service as simple, clear, and uniform as possible. The more straightforward your core offering, the easier it is to scale. Once your product is stable and uniform, design your workflows to deliver it efficiently and consistently. Think end-to-end process-wise and focus on eliminating bottlenecks end to end. Only after your product and processes are solid should you invest in technology to automate and scale. Your operating model design matters because most people, most businesses, and most founders get the sequence wrong. They jump straight to tech, hoping it will solve problems that are actually rooted in messy products, messier sales practices, or just flat-out broken ops processes. The result is wasted time, wasted money, and a lot of frustration and a lot of déjà vu when, after tech fails, everyone suggests that the answer should be, drumroll, tech. Again, by mastering the product process tech pyramid, you set yourself up for scalable, anti-fragile growth. Let's do a couple of quick exercises to flex those muscles. First, take 3 napkins and draw 3 boxes stacked on top of each other. Label them product, process, and tech. For each box, write down the one thing you could do today to make that layer simpler. Then, commit to working your way up the pyramid. Never skip a step. An example of a product box might be simplify my core offering to 3 main features, or ideally 1 main feature. An example for the process box would be map the steps from order to delivery and identify dependencies between the various steps. An example of the tech box might be identify 1 low-risk task to automate. The point is to commit to working your way up the pyramid. So fight the urge to skip a step, to skip a layer in that pyramid. Second exercise, pick your most repetitive workflow. Trace each step, each design point, each dependency, what essentially becomes a standard operating procedure, an SOP. Can then add a final step to that workflow. And every workflow you ever build from this point on, add that final step, which is review this workflow for relevance weekly. The point to both exercises is to train your brain to consider changing your product and your process before you commit to tech as any kind of answer. It's counterintuitive, but it's how you hustle smarter. Okay, this is day 24, part 3 of Lunch Break Millionaire. This is the segment where we #build in public, where I answer the daily questions every hustle should, using the MBA skills we just learned and showing my work, sharing how I'm building my hustle from scratch. No filters, just the real journey. You don't need to like or subscribe. I'm not doing this for the clicks. But if you're leveling up from other creators you follow or know, introduce us. I want to learn from them and help them level up too. We all deserve better than just making rich people richer. Okay, as I've been building editorial / super serious as business workflows and their engineering pipelines. And I get that it's still early days. I've been hyper-focused on where I have manual processes. Why? Because right now it's really what my 11th grade chemistry teacher used to call a personal problem. Hence, I invest my time in automating my processes, spending my time investing in scale. I soon won't have any time at all. Think Shawshank Redemption, like get busy scaling or get busy dying. But even though it's still early days, I don't forget everything that I've learned about automation over the last 25 years. For instance, I once designed and delivered a self-service workflow system that was adopted at scale. In less than a year, some 3,000 new workflows were created by teams across this massive company. On the surface, it was a success. Everyone was automating their work and productivity seemed to be soaring. But there was a catch, because all that automation was happening at the coalface with no oversight or alignment. We ended up with a tangled mess of disconnected automations, each of which ignore the crappy processes underneath them, the crappy products underneath that. No one felt empowered to question process or product. Also, no one was looking at the end-to-end process requirements across the company, and the result was a 3,000-point system that was fragile, confusing, impossible to maintain. Here is a point in life where automation becomes a liability. The lesson there, again, is that automation only works if you build on top of clear, aligned processes, and those processes only work if they're built on top of simple, uniform products. If you skip any step in the product, process, tech sequence, you're setting yourself up for failure. The other bit of experience worth calling out, most automation advice focuses on doing it right the first time so you don't have to do it again, which is just plain wrong. It's naive to think that your hustle, or any business really, is going to remain so static that you can set automations up and just walk away. In my experience, the best automations, the best daily workflows include a final step, a review that asks, is this workflow still relevant? This forces everyone doing the actual work to keep their processes fresh, to keep their products from drifting into complexity. My entire career in automation has been lesson after lesson after lesson about how sustainable, scalable automation never starts with tech. It's never first about plugging in a bunch of fancy tools or even gathering requirements for those fancy tools, which is standard BAU, for all the problems in the entire corporate world. Scalability and automation start with product design. It then needs you to step back and map out every process step you take to deliver value, to ask, where am I still doing the things the slow manual way? What processes can I first optimize without tech, but in a way that lets tech come in later, like the cavalry? Before I tech anything, before I automate anything, I first need to redesign my processes, my operating model, my business. You can start by looking for your analog work, let's call it that. Repetitive tasks you do over and over and over again, the ones that make you feel like a robot. I know how tempting it is to think, let's just get a tech tool to solve this. But no tech tool comes with your operating model out of the box. And if you automate a broken operating model, a broken process, you're scaling that garbage. Before you automate with tech, optimize your processes. Map out your workflow step by step by step, no matter how basic. In fact, imagine yourself in an old-timey factory holding like a clipboard and a stopwatch. It's called a time and motion study. It's a way to look closely at how work gets done, with the goal of making it more efficient. Imagine you're carefully watching and measuring how long each step of a job takes, the time part of time and motion study, and what actions or movements are involved in doing, the job, the motion part. You're really looking for any unnecessary steps or wasted effort. And then, after collecting all this information, which is genuinely hard work, don't get me wrong, you review it to find ways to make the job, the process, easier, quicker, safer. This method has been used for over a century in factories, in offices, and hospitals, long before software, long before AI was there to help productivity, to help reduce costs. Time and motion studies did that. They helped improve productivity. They helped reduce cost. And it's still the most powerful way to scale your hustle. You need some version of what I just described before you spend real money or real time on tech to automate anything thoughtfully, planfully. Okay, that was my little rabbit hole. So let's get back to today's questions, because those two questions are trying to train my brain, your brain, to understand the foundation for building automation. They guide me to examine my workflows and automation decisions through the lens of the product, process, tech pyramid. When I ask myself, if I had to review and redesign every workflow in my business every month, what would I keep and what would I change? What I'm really doing is practicing continuous improvement. It's an invitation to me to regularly assess my processes for relevance and alignment with my evolving hustle. It encourages me to notice when workflows drift out of sync with my current product, with my current customer needs, making sure that my automation is always built on a solid, up-to-date process. Second question was, if I could only automate one thing in my business this month, which task would let me see the most immediate impact on my time or on my customer's experience? And how would I know if it's working? This one guides me to prioritize automation based on impact. It asks me to focus my limited time and energy on changes that deliver measurable value. Super keyword in your life, measurable. Both questions are the practical application of the pyramid. They teach us that automation is only effective when built on top of clear, aligned processes, which are, in turn, built on simple, scalable products. I Really just want to make sure that every automation decision for my hustle is grounded in a product that is ready to scale and a process that is designed to support that growth. And that is another secret to turning my lunch break into something much, much bigger.